Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if this is your first time visiting. My name is Whitney, and today I am going to be providing a video for you guys that talks all about the different diagnostic tests that someone might face when they're trying to figure out whether or not they have POTS, or maybe it's something else that is going on. Some of these things you may have already encountered or will encounter, so I think it's always best to just have as much information as you can going into things. And so I know for me, I always want to know what to expect when I am going to the doctor. So if you are in the middle of a journey trying to figure out if you have POTS or dysautonomia, hopefully this video can help prepare you and give you just an idea of what you might expect at your physician's office when trying to get a diagnosis. And as you can see, I'm kind of in a different position today. I'm just feeling really potsy the last few days, but I still wanted to put out a video for you guys. So this is why I'm a little more relaxed and kind of lying down. So anywho, let's get right into the video. So the first diagnostic test I wanted to talk to you guys about is the standing test, or some people call it the poor man's tilt table test. There's probably several different names for it, but there's no table required, and all you would do is in your doctor's office, they would have you stand for whatever designated amount of time they do in their office. I've heard 10 minutes, I've heard 20, I've heard 30, so it might vary depending on the doctor. But you stand up, and the whole time your vitals are being watched, so your heart rate and usually your blood pressure are being monitored throughout to see what your vitals do. So if you're standing there and your heart rate doesn't go up, or doesn't go up at least by 30 beats per minute, then you likely will not get a POTS diagnosis. That is generally the criteria, is a heart rate that goes up upon, I think it's 10 minutes of standing. It has to go up at least 30 beats per minute. And so you're standing there, and if you do have POTS, you're getting really uncomfortable rather quickly, because if you do have POTS, you know that standing up and all that jazz just makes you feel potsy and sick and dizzy and lightheaded, and your heart's racing. And so it can be pretty easy for a doctor to figure out rather quickly. A lot of times it does not require, the full 20 minutes or 30 minutes of standing. And if you can't tolerate it, then just tell your doctor and they will let you sit down or lie down. But this is going to tell them what your heart is doing, what your blood pressure is doing, while you are doing this standing test. And it's something that you can also perform at home. And so if you just want to do this at home, by all means do it. You lie down and sit up and stand every day. Just be aware of how you're feeling, and if you're feeling lightheaded or maybe experiencing pre-syncope, things like that, then just sit down and lie down and just do things that you know your body can tolerate. Always listen to your body. I'm not a doctor. I'm just telling you that, this is a good baseline to tell, a doctor rather quickly that you are probably dealing with POTS or some form of dysautonomia. And so you would just stand up maybe at your bedside so that you're comfortable, and just keep track of your heart rate. If you have like a Fitbit or something along that line, then you can easily track your heart rate, or a pulse oximeter, or a blood pressure cuff, things like that. Those are really nice tools to have if you do have POTS, just so you can kind of keep track of your vitals. But I'm kind of going off subject. That is the first diagnostic test that you will likely run into, is the standing test. So the second test that I want to talk about, and it goes in line with the first, is that tilt table test. I don't know if you've heard of this or not, or perhaps you've already had one done, or you're going to be having one soon and you want to know more about it. I actually have a whole video on the tilt table test. Should you fear it? Is it that scary? What's it like, on my channel. I'll try to link that up above if I can remember. But the tilt table test, basically you go in and there's a small table. At least in my case it was quite small. You lie down, you get hooked up to an EKG monitor, so they're monitoring your heart rate, and you have a blood pressure cuff on you the whole time, that I think it was every minute taking my blood pressure. And they elevate you while you're strapped down on this table, so that's not ideal, especially if you're claustrophobic and don't like being restrained like myself. It was really a scary thought, but everyone was so nice and comforting, and they're right next to you the whole time. So they stand you up, I believe, at a 70-degree angle. It's not fully 90 degrees or like this. It's a little bit back, but basically, you're straight up. And so they just monitor your vitals. For me, I believe I was only on there for 7 minutes. They said it was going to be like half an hour, I believe, but I just couldn't tolerate it. I was dizzy, I was nauseous, my heart was going crazy. It was not a good experience, but it wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be either, just because everyone was so comforting. I think that really helps. And so they just monitor, get all that data, and then they give that data to your doctor or to whoever is reviewing it, and then they get back to you. But she told me right then and there when we were done that they got really good data. Again, I have a whole video on this, but she told me that my heart rate went up to the 160s. From, I think when I was lying down, it was around 90 and it went to the 160s. So that's a huge jump. And so right then and there, I was like, it kind of solidified it for me. Like, yeah, this is POTS. And, I kind of already had that inclination anyways, but it just kind of solidified it. Like, I didn't feel I needed to talk to the doctor, but you wait for a while and then the doctor gets back to you and gives you your results. And of course, he said it was, I'm trying to think of the word. It was consistent with a POTS diagnosis. And of course, there are further tests you can do to rule out other things. But that is what the POTS test. That is what the tilt table test is. And let's move on to the third one. Just a brief little apology if you hear any baby little screams. That's how my son thinks you whistle, is by doing like these little high-pitched screams. So if you hear that, that's what that is. And any other baby noises, I do apologize if that is an inconvenience for you. I can't control him. He's out of control. What can I do? Okay, back to the video. The third diagnostic testing that I wanted to talk to you guys about is blood tests. So way less invasive and a lot easier to get through if you don't mind a poke. And so they do different blood tests just to kind of rule out anything else in your body that might be going on and that could be causing your symptoms, because a lot of other disorders or deficiencies can mimic dysautonomia. And so they'll do blood tests for, a lot of your different minerals and vitamins and see if you're really low on something, see if that is a red flag. Certain hormones they might test for. There's just all sorts of things that they can check in your blood just to kind of rule anything else out. And that is a really good idea. And it's something that you should advocate to your doctor that you want done, because you don't want to be thinking that you have POTS or this and that if it is in fact something else that is way easier to manage, get under control, and you'll be fine. Whereas POTS, of course, is a chronic diagnosis. So just really advocate that with your doctor, that you want to get as much other testing done as possible to rule anything else out. So that was the third thing, was blood testing. Now the fourth thing that I wanted to talk about is called a QSART, quantitative sudometer axon reflex test. That's what it stands for, and it's kind of falls underneath the umbrella of testing that doctors do for dysautonomia or other specific autonomic disorders. And basically what this test is it kind of tests your sweat. Just to put it simply, it tests your quantity of sweat production and all that kind of thing, because if your autonomic nervous system isn't working properly, then likely your sweating and sweat control, whatever you want to call it, is kind of out of whack. So how much you sweat or how much you don't sweat can tell the doctor quite a bit, and it just kind of gives them a good idea of what's going on. Because if you're having normal sweating, perhaps it might lead them in another direction, versus if you're having excessive sweating, doing certain things or whatever, then it might signal a problem. Or if you just sweat for no reason all the time, or conversely, I also hear with POTS that you don't sweat very much at all. So there's kind of two ends of the spectrum. So this test just kind of gives them good data to go by based on your sweat. It's kind of gross, I know. So let's move on. Number 5. And pretty much the last thing I wanted to talk about, and I haven't had this done personally, but I've heard about it being done, is you would get brain imaging. So either by CT scan, and I believe MRI is the preferred method, but you would just get a scan of your brain to see what's going on in there, see if anything is causing your symptoms. Is there an underlying condition in your brain or your pathways or whatever's going on up there to signal it might be something else? So non-invasive, but probably really uncomfortable. I've always been afraid to have an MRI. I don't know about you. Like, I've heard it's so loud and like claustrophobic and scary, but I mean, I think a lot of times you have to weigh out the benefits versus risks. And, if you can identify something else that's going on in your brain, that's really important. So if you do have this opportunity afforded to you or offered by a doctor, I think it would be something worth considering, because in a POTS patient, um, there is no abnormality expected to be seen on your CT or MRI. But if you have something else going on inside your brain, then that's going to tell the doctor and lead you on the right path in your diagnostic journey and in healing and all of that stuff. So I think it's a good idea and something to consider if it is presented to you. So those are the basic things that I wanted to talk about today. Something else I wanted to touch on was with regard to the standing test. A lot of times they also do blood testing afterwards, and that is actually something I'm going to be having done this month. In a couple of weeks out of town, I'm going to go see my specialist, and he's going to try and determine perhaps what type of POTS I am experiencing. I have another video talking about all the different types of POTS that there are, and I'll try to link that up above as well. But the type that I have been suspicious of for me for quite some time is hyperadrenergic POTS, and so that has to do a lot with different stress hormones being released in the body and causing you to feel anxious. Your fight or flight response is engaged a lot of the time. And I talk about this a lot in my other videos too. But what I'm going to be doing, he told me, I think it was only 10 minutes. I'm going to be standing for 10 minutes. They take the levels, I believe, before and after, but I'm not exactly sure. They take your blood and they test for certain hormones and stress hormones in your body. And so that's going to give us a good idea of whether or not I have hyperadrenergic POTS. And I'm really excited to get some definitive information, because either way I'll have peace of mind about it, and yeah, just kind of move forward the most appropriate way, because he told me there are some differences in the treatment if you have hyperadrenergic POTS versus, say, low blood volume or something like that. So yeah, that's where I'm at, and I'm looking forward to that trip just to kind of get some more answers. But anyways, I hope this video was helpful for someone and gave you a little bit of an idea of what you might expect to see from the doctor when they're testing you for POTS. Oh, something else just came to mind briefly that I also experienced. More likely than not, you're going to be referred to a cardiologist when you first become suspicious of POTS, or that something's going on and you think it's heart related. And so that's what happened with me. I went to a cardiologist, and they also did several EKGs and ultrasound of the heart, just to make sure that there's nothing intrinsically wrong with the heart itself. So that's something else that you more than likely will go through as well. But it's painless, and it's actually reassuring to know, that there's nothing physiologically wrong with the heart, and it is not because of the heart if you do have POTS. So anyways, I guess that's it. I'll wrap this video up. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you like these type of videos, and if you are a fellow POTS sufferer, please leave me a comment down below. Let me know how your diagnostic journey went and all of that good stuff. So I will see you in the next video. I hope you're staying well and safe. Bye.